Well, welcome everybody. This is Brian Gibbons with Rissa Collins. How are you, Rissa?
I'm great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great. Okay, this is our first unbelievable first video about Rissa and Brian coaching. Aren't you excited?
I'm excellent. Really super excited.
Yeah, we've been friends for so long. You've been such a wonderful friend to me, but also a wonderful asset to the real estate investing community. You help people all the time. I'm not asking for anything in return. I try to do the same thing. What I want to tell folks out there, if you don't know Rissa Collins, look on Facebook. She's there. She's all about helping people with real estate. I've known her for so many years, and she's just awesome as far as helping people. We're in the cash or terms business, meaning we're going to offer cash or some kind of terms, and we'll explain what terms means a little bit later in this intro video. But if you can give the seller 2 or 3 offers at one time, chances are you're going to come out with a good signed contract. So, Rissa, welcome, and why don't you introduce me a little bit?
Yes, Brian, if y'all don't know Brian, he is one of the top real estate people in the country. I love him to death. We've been friends forever, and he's done probably hundreds of deals. He started in, I think, 1982.
That's right. That's the year.
Yeah. And he's done tons of deals, and he has coached hundreds and hundreds of successful students. He really knows what he's doing, and he loves to share what he knows with people who want to be successful. And we're all about not so much being successful for success's sake, but helping people.
Right.
We are property problem solvers.
There you go.
And if you go into this with the idea that you want to help people with their property problems, and you can offer them 1 or 2 or more solutions to their problem, then chances are you're going to be very successful and you're going to make a lot of money.
Right. Right.
And it's very fulfilling.
I think so. One of my favorite quotes is "Be a servant always."
Yeah.
And if you're not licensed and you're in real estate investing, you can serve that seller by helping that real estate agent get a listing. Or you can have your spouse get a listing if she's licensed or he's licensed. So there's all sorts of ways to make money in this business, but always have the attitude when you talk to the sellers, I don't know what I can do for you. I just got to talk to you about your property and see if I can't put an offer in writing within 24 hours. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to spill your beans. Well, how are you going to solve it on the phone? Or, what are you going to do? I don't know yet. I've got to walk through the property, got to see if it needs any repairs, and then I got to see what the existing financing is, and then see if we can't get a solution to your problem.
Right.
It's that simple. And if people would say that and walk through the house, and just do that 10 times a week, 40 times a month, I guarantee you'll get 5 deals and you'll be successful. But if you try to close it on the phone without building rapport first and without them feeling something from you, they're not going to work with you. Would you agree to that?
Rapport is everything. Mm-hmm. You have to get to know your seller, get to know your seller's problems.
There you go.
Without that, you've got nothing. Yeah. Anybody can mail 3 offers and not even know the seller or what their problem is, mm-hmm. and they're going to throw them in the trash.
That's it.
And that's where your career is going to be if that's all you do.
Exactly.
It's going to be in the trash, because this is truly all about helping people solve their problems.
And, yeah. There's a wonderful, I'm sorry, there's a wonderful sales trainer. His name is Tom Hopkins. Now, you old folks out there, you know who Tom is. He's one of the best sales trainer in the world. And he had a favorite saying of mine when I've been coaching. I started coaching in the 90s. He said, if you don't get belly button to belly button with your prospect, they're not going to sign anything. It's not going to work. And even if you got to wear a mask and you're at the kitchen table, you know, you got to say, look here, offer 1 is going to do this for you. Offer 2 is going to do this for you. And offer 3 is going to do this for you. You tell me which one you like the best.
And that works.
It always works.
It always works.
Now, you folks out there that have been listening to those YouTube youngsters talk about wholesaling, and they have been doing it for a few years, but not too many, maybe 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. God bless them. You know, they're all excited about one tool, and that's good that they're excited about one tool. But, you know, wholesaling is just one tool. Would you agree to that?
Wholesaling is a job too.
Uh-huh. You want to explain that, what that means?
Yeah, I was going to wait till we get into the wholesaling.
No, we will. But just in one sentence or so.
But you always have to look for your next deal.
Right.
You don't have income coming in steadily. Once you do that deal, you're done.
There you go. And it's expensive to get that needle in a haystack deal.
It is.
Because you need the right number of repairs, you need the right street, you need a right motivated seller that will take a lot less for their property. So, and in this seller's market, I've got friends right now in $1 million neighborhoods, and they're overpaying for a shitty house. Overpaying for it because they just want the land and they're going to bowl it over. Because those builders in those nice neighborhoods, they can't get the land. They just can't get it. So you know, it's unique times, it's scarcity. So let's get started just answering some questions that, you know, I hear all the time. I mean, can this really be done with no banks? Do you want to talk about that question?
It absolutely can be done with no money and no credit, and that's how I started, and it's still my favorite way to do things. You always have to have some money. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have to come from your bank.
Right.
And you don't have to use your credit to get it. Always. There are many different ways to put a deal together using seller financing, lease options. There's a lot of ways to put things together where you don't have to use your own money or your bank's money.
There you go. And just folks out there, you know, we use this acronym OPM. And OPM is a wonderful acronym. It means other people's money. So let's say that you had an uncle that had IRA money, a couple $100,000, and you needed $50,000 for a deal. So you go to your uncle and says, look, what you can do is your IRA can lend me money for this 50, and I'll pay you interest on it. You know, I might pay you 10% interest, but only for 3 months use of the money.
Right.
So that's not really 10%. That's like 2 or 3% for the use of the money. And that way, your uncle's earning interest on the personal loan, and you're getting a deal without using your own money. That's one way to do it. So that's what we teach, right? We teach all of that as far as in the further training. And what we want to do is let you know that you can be bankrupt into this business. You can, but you do need to treat the seller well and get referrals, that seller's pleased with you. That's the way to build the business. So let's say you're renting right now. You're a young family with a couple of kids, and you're throwing away that money on rent to a landlord, and you're paying their mortgage for them. What would you say to those young families about getting their own home and getting into home ownership?
This is one of the best things to use to get your own home. Anybody that is a true investor, you don't ever need to rent again. You can always use the tools and the techniques and these strategies and buy your own house.
There you go.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, without a bank and without credit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we're going to teach you some marvelous tools on how to do that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be working on increasing your credit. You should be. But at the same juncture, don't let no credit or bad credit get in your way of having your own patch, your own backyard, your own, somebody that can't evict you, and your money is building equity instead of paying down some landlord's mortgage for you. So what about exit strategies? Boy, that sounds weird, doesn't it? Exit strategies. Is that like an exit on a freeway? What is that?
That's once you actually buy a house or even put one under contract, what are you going to do with it then?
There you go.
And where a lot of people panic because they have no earthly idea what to do once they get a house under contract in the first place.
There you go.
And we teach all of that. We teach at least one or two exit strategies for each property that you have under contract.
There you go. There you go. So I call this the 4 boxes business, and I'll explain what that means right now. The first box is finding motivated sellers, because until you can do that, you don't have anything. I don't care what strategy you're using. So you're in the beginning, you should be hyper activity, should be finding motivated sellers. But at the same time, you need hungry buyers. And there's 3 types. There's cash buyers for the wholesaling. And then you find these owner financing buyers. They might be for land contracts or contracts for deed. They can put like 10% down or 15% down. And then lastly, these tenant buyers for the lease options. And if you have that attitude, I'm going to find motivated sellers and hungry buyers right away, then I'll swear you'll be successful. Now, the other 2 boxes are important, but they're not as important as those 2. You got to get those 2 first. But getting private lenders is so important, and you should be talking to people. Let's say you're buying stamps at the post office. Is, hey, what do you do? It's called your elevator speech. You've heard that saying over and over and over. And I go, you always ask, what do you do? You don't tell them what you do. He says, oh, I work for XYZ company. I'm in management. He says, oh, that's awesome. I got this great business. I help people find homes. I help people sell homes, and I help people get 10% on their IRA money without the risk of the market. Like if Putin blows up something and the market goes down 1,000 points, then that doesn't affect your rate of return with me. You get 10% no matter what. So if you're ever interested in diversifying your IRA money, you let me know. And you say that all the time.
Yes, you go to the grocery store and you're waiting in line, turn around and talk to the person behind you or the one in front of you. Where sure, we'll go into marketing later, but that's one form of marketing, and it's one of the best forms you can do.
Yeah. And, I'm going to credit one of my good friends, William Tangle. He, back in 2002, really a long time ago, at least 20 years ago, he said, the only marketing I use is my big yellow button. And I'm going, what? And he goes, yeah, I go shopping, and it's huge. It's like 6 inches in diameter, and I put it on my jacket, and I says, I buy houses. Those 3 words. And that's it. And every single time, I'm not leaving the store until I get a lead from somebody.
That was a good one.
Oh, but it's true though, Riss.
It worked.
And the same thing with those, I don't want to get too much in marketing either, but if you just have I buy houses and phone number on those magnetic signs on your car. You got a story about that.
I did. I was driving from Texas to Arkansas on Interstate 30 one day, and I was out where there weren't any towns, there wasn't any traffic, but there was a highway patrol. I guess he was doing radar or something, and all of a sudden, in my rearview mirror, I see him pulling in behind me with his lights on.
Oh God.
Going, okay, you know, when you get pulled over, you go, okay, was I speeding? Where's my insurance card? All this stuff going through your mind, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. And so I roll the window down, I pull over, and he comes up and asked for my driver's license, my insurance card, and I said, officer, what was I doing wrong? And he goes, maybe you were too close to the person in front of you. I said, there's nobody even inside with me. And he said, goodness. Well, is that you on this sign on your door? I had one of those I buy houses signs on my door. And I said, yes, that's me. And he goes, do you really buy houses? And where do you buy? And I said, well, anywhere. And he said, my sister and my brother-in-law have a house for sale. And that's why he pulled me over the freeway, and I bought that house. It was hilarious. It worked. I've had people run up the street when we're going up and down neighborhoods looking for vacant houses. And I had a lady one time, and I heard something scream and looked in the mirror, and she's running down the road going, wait, because she wanted to sell her house.
That's it. You know, there's so many people that will really give you a chance if you're just sweet to them when you talk to them and they're excited or depressed about their situation, and you just listen. Listen to their thing. Don't try to sell them. Don't try to ask a lot of questions. This is the best question you can ask them is, how fast do you need to sell?
Yeah. And, you know, you can most people want to talk to you. And so if you just sit down and fold your hands and say, can you tell me about your house and your situation?
There you go. And the other thing too is repeat back what they say so they feel heard, because if they feel heard, they're going to work with you more. Absolutely. But if you just kind of quickly go over what they say, oh, well, thanks for telling me about it. No, they don't feel heard when you do that. And you're just, you got to be almost a little bit like a counselor where you're hearing them, they feel heard. I said, okay. And then you can go into your other things that you say. We have a whole negotiation part of that. So we're going to talk about 4 sections, kind of introduce them about every investor needs these 4 tool types, if you will. One is called wholesaling, another one's called retailing, another is a big box called seller financing. There's a lot of stuff in there. And then there's regular landlording that you just put 20% down and you buy and hold. So we'll talk about those right now. So wholesaling, what's the pluses and minuses to wholesaling? What would you say that is?
Well, you know, wholesaling is quick money.
Right.
You have to find, well, that's one of the downsides, but it's good money. It's quick money. You help people with a problem to get rid of their property quickly. That's the main upside of wholesaling. Okay. What do you think are some of the downsides?
Well, just so people know, it means getting the property under contract for $10 is what it is. It doesn't cost anything to get it under contract. That's the nice thing about it, the plus side. There's no real money out of your pocket in wholesaling when you talk to the seller.
Right.
That doesn't mean there's no money spent to get that deal. You know, right now, you know, the old-fashioned way is direct mail, and that still works. You know, postcards and letters and stuff. Yellowletters.com is a great place to go get some marketing for some wholesaling. But at the end of the day, it's getting harder and harder to use these marketing techniques to do just wholesaling.
It is, especially in this kind of a market where it's all a seller's market.
That's correct. In a seller's market, wholesaling is much harder than a buyer's market. So what I recommend that you do is learn wholesaling, but don't specialize in it. You want to find a seller that has a problem and give them a cash offer and maybe 2 terms offers, and you'll make money. I guarantee you. All right, so that's wholesaling. Retailing or rehabbing, where you buy it, fix it, and resell it, and you don't have to use your own money for that. You can go different ways to get it funded. You can do with JV partners. You can do hard money lenders, but you got to get it real cheap for hard money, and it's expensive money. So, there are some pluses. The biggest plus to retailing, in my opinion, is it's a big payday, but it's a long payday. It might be 3 to 6 months before you get that payday.
Right. And the other downside is you're not doing it all by yourself. You have to rely on contractors and people to show up and do a good.
So when you put it under contract in a retail deal, you can make mistakes on pricing the job, right? When you buy
Right. Oh yeah. If you've ever watched any of the TV shows, you can see the things that can go wrong really quickly with things you can't see when you first walk in the house.
Yes, that's very, very true. And you need a good general contractor. You need to be able to price materials. You need to work with that general contractor to get your materials as low as you can. And then you need a good agent that'll stage that house and sell it in a second, because your time is money on retailing. So that's the thing. And I'll tell you, that's not the easiest way to make money in real estate investing. It's one of the harder ways to do it.
It is.
But if you got a good contracting background, retailing is a good way to make some side money. But I wouldn't do it right away. The easiest way is the next section, is what we call seller financing, where the seller helps you buy the house on terms. So what would you call a terms deal, Rissa? What is that?
Okay, it's where the seller has a mortgage, say,
Mm-hmm.
and you give him a moral promise to pay his mortgage for him.
There you go.
And you do that for a certain number of years. I don't like to stretch it out for the life of the loan unless it's 5 years or less, in which case that's a sweet deal. But up to 5 years,
Yeah.
reasonable, because if they have a problem and they're about to lose their house, it's going to be on their credit for that long anyway, pretty much.
Right.
So, and you can get a lot done with the house in 5 years. Or less.
Oh, I agree. 5 years is a good amount of time
It
for
is.
this particular way of buying a house on seller financing. So we're going to go through a toolbox of seller financing, or a toolbox for terms deals. So the first one that comes to mind is, I really do like subject to the existing financing, as far as probably the best way to buy a house without credit or without banks. So sub 2 is also called get the deed. You want to explain that a little bit, what that's all about?
Well, when you purchase a house on a sub 2, you have the seller issue you a deed, and you get a mortgage, which is called a wrap. And that way you own the house. You put it in a land trust. We always put everything in a land trust.
Right. Yeah, we subject to means taking over the payments but not assuming the loan.
Right.
And it's making, like you said, a moral obligation. We're going to promise to make this payment no matter what. And if it's a really nice house and they talk to the lawyer and they go, well, I don't know if I want to do this and give you the deed. I said, well, I'll make you a deal. I'll keep a reciprocating deed in escrow for you. If we default, if we're more than 30 days late, you can have the house back. How does that sound? That's fair. That's a fair way to go. And if they can't handle that kind of a transaction, then I say, well, then we'll have to pass. And thank you. But,
not every deal works for a sub 2, but a good number of them do.
A pretty house in a good school district in good condition, even if it's got no equity, we can do something with that house on a sub 2 and a land trust, because it's like that nice car in good condition. We can always find a buyer for it, you know. So it really depends on the house, like you said, as far as sub 2, you know. And the next one I think you alluded to, it's not exactly a sub 2, it's called a wraparound mortgage, where you basically create a brand new first mortgage and wrap it around the existing financing. It could be an existing first or an existing second, but you wrap it around and you create a brand new mortgage. And they're very popular in certain parts of the country. I live in California, and out here we call them AITDs, or all-inclusive trust deeds. It's a trust deed state. But, you know, it's still tricky. It's still tricky. You know, a lot of lawyers don't like them. And if they go get their lawyer and they want to do a wrap on their existing financing, they say, well, we don't want you to do it. So it really takes a creative seller that's willing to be able to use that particular tool. But a seller carries second. You know, if somebody's got like a 50% equity and they're willing to carry their equity, full price even, you know, so if it's worth $100,000 house in Ohio and they carry a $50,000 second, then that's a good deal for them. We don't have to make any payments on that second, right?
Right.
We can say, look, we'll give you simple interest, 5% payable in 60 months from now.
I have several deals where they have, say, they've had the house for a while, and they have, say it's $100,000 house, and they have $30,000 on their mortgage.
Right.
We can take over their mortgage and then offer to pay their equity, which is $70,000, in 5 years.
Exactly.
And it's amazing how many people will jump at that.
That's exactly right. That's called sub 2 and a note. And I think sub 2 and a note is a wonderful way to, without a bank, getting them 100 cents on the dollar for their house. They just don't get it today.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yep.
So yeah, just know that sub 2 can be used with notes. The next one, a lot of people don't understand this, especially in the West, but it's called a land contract. And it's very popular in the East, especially in agricultural states. You want to talk about land contracts, contracts for deed, agreement for deed?
Contracts for deed are just an agreement between the seller and the buyer that you will pay them a certain amount of money each month until a certain amount of money is paid off, and then the seller will give you the deed.
There you go. So I'm the seller, you're the buyer. You as a buyer, give you 20% down. I'll give you a payment, and then there'll be a balloon payment in 5 years or something like that. That's generally how it works.
Right.
A lot of people in the Midwest, again, you know, when people came from the East Coast and moved west and they settled in Indiana and whatever, these land contracts are very, very popular, especially with farmers. And they would put some money down, they would pay after harvest, and then they would give a payment. And then they would keep doing that over 10 years, then they'd own the property. So it is a common tool. But the thing, as an investor, if you are going to buy a land contract, that's no problem. But selling on a land contract, you should investigate the state that you live in, as far as if the buyer that you sell on land contract or contract for deed, if they default, how hard is it to get the property back?
Yeah.
You need to understand this foreclosure part, because this is a sale, it's an installment sale. And you must do a good job understanding the legalities if you sell on contract for deed. So some states are easy to get the property back, and some states are hard.
Right.
So I think contract for deed to buy is very, very good. And contracts for deed, depending on the state that you're in, are very, very good to sell. Right. So the next thing we want to talk about it's funny. It's one of my favorite things to use as a seller financing tool. And people don't think of this as seller financing, but it's lease options or rent to own.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done hundreds of these deals, and I've helped other people do these deals. Let's talk from the seller's perspective. It's more of a lease purchase arrangement than lease auction. But how does that lease purchase work with the seller? Can you explain that? Now, I'm the seller, and you're going to do a lease purchase with me.
Okay, say you've got a house and it's worth $200,000 and you're asking $205,000.
There you go.
And you want to move quickly.
Right.
And you don't want to be involved in everything, but you want to just get someone in there. You don't want the house to sit there.
Right.
And so if you do a lease option, then you get your price, and you actually usually get more than the house is worth. Mm-hmm. So it's a good tool for sellers who really want to maximize their money in their house.
Right.
Right.
Right. No, I agree with that. So using your example, I'll say, Mr. Seller, I'll give you your $205,000, but it's going to be on a lease purchase arrangement where, let's say, market rent is $1,500. What you need to do is I said, I can't give you top rent on the property. I can give you about $1,100, and that will be for 3 years. And then at the end of that, you'll get your $205.
Yeah, I try to give them whatever their payment is.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But what I want is a spread between what I can get from the tenant buyer and what I give the seller. But I do try to get a discounted rent. If, let's say, it's free and clear. Let's say the house doesn't have any mortgage at all, and they wanted to get 100 cents on the dollar for the house. We'll do that for them, but they're not going to get full market rent. So, so that's on the seller side. We've negotiated $10 down, $1,100 a month, and market rent's $1,500.
Right.
And then what I'll do is, on a tenant buyer, I'll charge them a little bit more than market rent, maybe $1,600, so I can get a good cash flow out of the property. And then I'll give them an option to buy it in 36 months or 35 months, because I don't want to do the 36, the due on sale clause. You don't want to do a lease over 36 months. Right. So 35 months, and they have 35 months to get permanent financing at 210. And I could care less when they exercise their option. They could do it next month. They could do it next year. They could do it in 35 months, whatever. But they got a good amount of time to get their credit stronger, get their small business stronger, and we'll point them down the road to work on their credit and help them look good to a permanent financing lender like FHA or conventional. Right. So that's the lease options, and that's called a sandwich deal. And there's 3 paydays in a sandwich deal, and you want to get a really pretty house in a good school district. You do not want a bad school district. You do not want a junker kind of house. It's got to be a pretty house on these sandwiches. Right. Now, there's another way to use lease options, and it's called a lease option assignment or cooperative assignment or wholesaling lease options. Joe McCall's done a lot of good work with wholesaling lease options. And I trained John Jackson, who's amazing in Texas. He's a very funny guy. If you ever want to hire him for a birthday party, hey, John, how you doing, buddy? But lease option assignments in most states are really a good tool. You want to explain what a lease option assignment is?
That's where you put the property under lease, and then you just assign that lease to the new people. You put your tenant buyer in there. You can do it 2 different ways, but you just let your tenant buyer deal directly with the seller. Right. And that way you get your option fee and you get out.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
flipping a lease option contract for a fee.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to act as a principal, and you enter into a lease and a separate option with the seller, and then assign that paperwork for a fee. It's a little tricky depending on what state you're in. The way I like to do it is charge an option release fee. So what I'll do is I'll do a lease, do an option, but I'll record the option under a memorandum, and then the fee that gets paid by the tenant buyer is an option release fee, not an assignment.
Right.
And that way I release the option in their name. Okay, so that's lease options, and we can touch a little bit on commercial lease options. You want to touch base on that a little bit? Like, for instance, let's say you had a small apartment building, 8 doors, nothing big, and it's mom and pop. Let's say that mom and pop means small business. It's not these big corporations using 8-door buildings. They're just 8 doors. They're not making a lot of income. And what you want to do is talk directly with the seller and say, hey, why don't you consider selling to me, and I'll do what's called a lease and a separate option, and the lease payment will be your current NOI. Do you want to explain what NOI is to those folks that don't know much about commercial property? What is NOI?
That's your net operating income. It's what's left over after you pay everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
So in commercial real estate, it's all about the cap rate, and it's all about NOI. And we go through that in training. But if you can get a low NOI, that means they're not getting much rent and they're getting a lot of vacancy. And, it's not a great, it's not doing very well. And you want to guarantee that NOI and take over that. Then what you would do is raise the rents and get the vacancy better, and maybe getting other services like laundromat or whatever inside the building to be able to increase some cash flow out of that particular building. And then you exercise your option or sell your option. And that's how you do the small commercial lease option. And that's something that we train on. Let's talk a little bit about, the standard option, which is a wonderful tool. You've got so many great stories about these investors that will just use a simple option agreement and then sell that option agreement.
Yeah, I had a friend who we sat down and started talking about what he did, and he traveled all over the country finding a particular type of property for a drugstore,
right,
and a national chain drugstore. And every time he would find what they want, he would put it on an option, and then he would sell that option to that drugstore.
right.
And he made millions of dollars doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that so much better than being a W-2 employee at $40,000 a year?
Oh, heck yeah.
Well, I mean, for goodness sake, if you can negotiate with the seller a screaming deal and still give that big corporate giant of a retailer still a good deal,
Sure.
and make the difference.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a great tool that is. And
Exactly.
there was another story you had about just using a simple option.
Yeah, there's always, like, I have another friend that does just the regular small convenience stores.
There you go.
And they have a little deli in them or something like that, in a gas station, and so we go around as we're driving.
Mm-hmm.
We look for places like on a corner lot or something like that,
Right.
that would be good for a little store like that.
Okay.
And we put those properties under contract and sell them to him.
I love it. Just get what the buyer wants under contract,
Right.
and you are good to go. So learning how to use these option contracts is something that we train on. And so you can understand what a standard option is and how to use that tool. I just love solving problems for people and making money for everybody. You know,
Absolutely.
that's the big thing.
Mm,
Let me tell you about this one deal. The guy was in Florida and he had this property in Texas and it was free and clear. He was trying to sell it and it was worth $250,000 and it was free and clear. And he had an expired listing with an agent and he moved to Florida. And he had this vacant house that was just expired listing. So I called the agent and they go, can you tell me the cell phone number of this seller? I know it's expired and all. I was, oh yeah, I had to leave town. Here's his cell phone number. So she gives me the cell phone number and I call him up and I go, hi, you don't know me, but I'm standing in front of this gorgeous house in XYZ, Texas. Can you, I mean, why would you ever want to sell this beautiful thing?
mm-hmm.
And now remember that question. Why would you ever want to sell? And because people will talk and talk and talk. I said, oh, I have to sell it now because I'm building a house in Florida and I've already paid the materials and the land, but I got to pay this builder and he wants the money this week. And I go,
That's a tough one for other people.
wow, wow. Well, how much do you want for your house? I said, well, it's worth 250. If you can give me 225 for it. I said, listen, I'll give you 230 for it, but we got to do a creative deal. Would you be open to that? So I offered him a little bit more than he wanted, not much. And I said, it's going to require you to do some paperwork if it's okay. And I said, me paperwork? He says, yeah. What I want you to do is get a new first mortgage on this house. It's free and clear. So I want you to get like a quick 60% of value and then get a new first. And I'm going to give you a second mortgage on the balance. So what happened is he accepted the deal. I had no payments on the second for 5 years at 4% interest. And I think the outgoings on the first was like $1,200, something like that for the new first.
Mm-hmm.
No payments on the second for 5 years. I did a lease purchase arrangement, a lease option arrangement on that. Got 10% down and the market rent was $2,500.
Yeah. Those are sweet deals.
But it's solving the problem.
Absolutely.
He needed the money right away. Did he get the money right away?
He did.
He did. He got a new first mortgage on this house. It never occurred to him to refinance a new first. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to get the seller to refinance. That's not an easy thing every day. But he had so much pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And his biggest question was, how fast can you get a mortgage broker in my kitchen?
Yeah.
And I said, he'll be there tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
I just made a phone call, got a mortgage broker to go over his house, fill out the paperwork. It was 60% of value is an easy refi. It's not a hard thing to do at all because there's so much protection for the lender.
Right.
So let's finish up here and talk a little bit about standard rentals. You know, folks out there, I don't know if you know this, but you can get a fourplex with 3% down FHA. Did you know that? I mean, or 3.5, whatever it is. And you can live in one of those units. So if you're single or you're like just married, this is a great way to get on a property ladder. And chances are the rents that are coming out of those 3 units of the 4 are enough for you to live rent-free. What do you think of that idea for young people?
I think it's great. If you are where you can do that, why in the world would you not? It does require that you have decent credit, but you don't have to have great credit.
No.
And you do have to have 3.5% down, but that's not that much. And so if you are young and you've saved your money and you can do that and live free,
Mhm.
Why would you?
Oh, you know, the other thing you can do, even if you're broke, you go talk to every relative and say, listen, I want to get off of renting. I want to own.
Yeah.
And I've got a fourplex I want to buy, and I need $15,000. And if you do that, you can, if they say, oh, I don't have anything liquid in savings, well, do you have any IRA money?
Yeah.
And if you do, they can do a personal loan to you from your IRA. You got to be careful of disqualified persons in private lending. We can talk about that a little bit, but you can get a private loan. And, you know, if you're part of our group and you're paying for training, there's no problem if you talk to both of us that we can't find some kind of solution for whatever it is that's sticking you, except maybe we can't help you with childcare. Because if you got 3 kids under 4 years of age, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You're going to have to solve that problem yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, so the thing that we got to do is let you know that to implement what our training's all about is you got to study it, then you got to implement it, and then you got to take action. So, you know, we'll help you make sure you study it and you know it. But the most important thing is taking action. If you don't take action, all of this is just going to school, getting a degree, and doing nothing with it.
Right. And you have to take action in the correct order.
Yeah, exactly.
Really do.
And we will help you do the right things at the right time. We'll also help you get your office set up. You don't need much. You just need to get a computer and a phone. A smartphone's got a video and a photo on it. It's got every app in the world. I wish I had this when I was starting out, because I had these old-fashioned digital cameras, and it was a mess. Polaroids even.
My dog's flip camera.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, in setting goals, that's the other thing. You know, we help you set goals the first year. We want you to hit your marks, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you can hit your marks and just do, even if you're working full time, I don't care if it's 5 hours a week, we're going to help you do the critical tasks during those 5 hours and make sure you have a diary about what you've done so you can inspect what you expect. And we want you to be successful, don't we, Rissa?
Absolutely. We don't want anybody out there trading dollars for hours if we can help it.
Oh, isn't that the truth? That's exactly what it is.
No much longer than they have to.
Yeah. Well, being self-employed is a lot of work, but it's rewarding work because you're building something and expanding something and making it better and better and better. As every year you get better, and you go to seminars and you learn more, and everybody wants to help you learn in this industry. So the next video is going to be about creative financing, where we go into these tools and when do we use them. And so let's say we have a deal that requires financing. What do we do with that to use no bank financing? And if it doesn't require financing, no financing at all, what tools do we use for that? And so we'll kind of help you analyze the deals a little bit and get into more detail about the 4 pillars, which are wholesaling, retailing, seller financing, which has about 5 tools, and then the standard buy and hold landlording. So I've enjoyed this first recording. It's been fun.
I have too. Thank you. It's been a great. It's always so much fun to do things with you.
Yeah. Well, we love to help people learn. You know, we're both natural teachers. We like to teach and motivate, but at the same juncture, you know, if you want a push button system, this isn't it. You're going to learn everything you need to know. You're going to make some money, but you're not going to be into this one dog pony or one trick pony kind of thing. You know, you're not going to do just wholesaling. You're not going to do just flipping. You're going to do everything. And
Yeah.
that way you feel like, oh, I've got all the tools I need now.
Right. Right. Because you just doing one thing is fine if you just don't know any better.
Right.
But there's so many things when you start talking to these sellers that one thing won't fit.
That's right.
And so the more you know, the more you can help your seller.
Right. And it's scary. It's scary in the beginning because you feel like you don't know enough. But once you get through one sub-2 land trust deal, you'll know how to do that deal. Once you know how to do one wholesaling deal, you'll know how to do that deal. Once you do one land contract deal, you'll know what to do with that deal. So the beginning is scary, but we will help you get that first deal with our training. And,
right.
You know, folks out there, if you think you can't afford it, well, you can't afford not to do it too.
Right.
You got to ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this the kind of training I want? Well, you got to make up your mind. But if you want to get to work this spring and this summer and this fall, we're looking for the right kind of student. We're looking for that go get you kind of student and not getting paralyzed with all this information. Once you learn how to talk to a seller and get it under contract, that's the hardest part. And then we'll tell you the action steps after you get that step done. So, Rissa, until the next video, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. It's always a pleasure. And you know, the one thing about us old guys that have been doing this forever, we've seen so many different types of deals, and we've seen so much, and we've learned to do so much over the years. And I think together we have what, over 3/4 of a century of experience.
Oh my God. Well, I don't want to tell folks how old I am, but yeah, you're right. That's about right.
Yeah.
That's a number of years. But the whole thing here is we've been through so many cycles. You know, from the tax changes in the 80s to the roaring 90s, and then the dot-com bust and the 2007 bust, and now we've got, you know, I guarantee you this seller's market is going to change on a dime in the next 6 months, and it's going to turn into a regular market, then it's going to turn into a buyer's market. So you need these tools right now. You need to understand exactly what it is.
If you get in and get this learned, it's going to be a lot of fun later on in the year.
There you go. Well, next one is creative financing, and will be lots of fun. I look forward to it.
Me too.
All right. Bye for now.
See y'all.